right. Good morning to you, Jared. Good morning,
Good morning, brother.
listeners. We are excited. Episode 6. Still doing it. Still doing it, Jared.
Yes, we
Feel
are.
like I feel like there's times that we want to throw in the towel, but nope, not yet. Not yet. Well, I know it's early over there in Seattle, and we got an early episode, so I'm gonna try and keep you awake, Jared. But we are talking about something that I love just discussing, and that is conspiracy theories. Again, we'll try and every once in a while throw something you haven't heard. We'll start with just some of the common ones. I think last time we talked about Titanic, which again I think is fascinating because there's been movies written about it, but then there's a lot of like lore behind it. Today we're going to talk about something a little bit more profound, a little bit something deeper. And this kind of sparked my interest, watching the Matrix, right? And this is going into, are we just in a computer simulation? And in the Matrix, basically humans are living in pods, and they're essentially just providing nutrients for the robots, right? And in my opinion, I think obviously it's a movie. You're kind of like, oh, this is bullshit. But at the same time, it's like
Great
it
movie,
just
though.
makes you think. It makes you think a little bit because you know I mean, there's already like talk of like, is there life outside of us? So who's to say like a different life form didn't land on planet Earth, and they're technologically advanced, took over, and then utilized the human race for like an energy source, right? So who's to say that we didn't? Who's to say that we did not advance quick enough? And with AI, with technology the way it is, just expanding rapidly, where the robots took over decades ago, and they allow us to live in this computer simulation to pretend that we are in fact living our lives, but in reality we're hooked up to all these, I don't know, mind controlling devices. And just again, it's a fascinating theory. It's a fascinating theory. I think that we will never, Jared and I are not scientists, but we can try and make something up that sounds realistic enough. So Jared, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, again, this isn't a new concept. Like, for instance, Matrix has been around for over 2 decades, right? So this has been, the red pill, blue pill. This is something that's been talked about for years now. And you brought up a good point before we actually got on. You brought up like The Sims, and this is something I'd never heard of. So I'm a little bit curious on like your viewpoint on like us being a computer simulation, and also how that ties into like The Sims the game.
You've never heard of Sims the game?
I've heard of Sims the game, but I'm not sure how that applies to like that we're in a computer simulation. Is that basically saying we are controlling other people?
Well, first, what I want to do is let's break this down a little bit, right? So if we try to unpack this conspiracy theory of there being a possibility of we are living in the simulation, that first kind of gets deep in the sense of, are we saying that God is not real? Because that means that we were not created by God, as you mentioned. That means that we were created by another life form, correct?
Right.
Okay. So for a lot of people out there, that's gonna be a little controversial, but that's the whole point, I think, of a conspiracy theory, is that it's supposed to ruffle some feathers there and potentially unravel what the majority of people believe to be true. So I think that's fascinating off the jump. Right there alone is just that possibility of us being created by another life form and not by a higher power that we all consider, or most of us call, God or a God. So
all right, wait. So now you're throwing me off here a little bit. So you're saying that God did not create us, but we were actually created by some other beings that basically.
Well, that's what you just said, right? That's what you just said. If that's the whole point of this conspiracy theory, is that if we're being controlled by another life form,
right,
then how can we have been created by God, but we're also being controlled by another life form?
All right. So hear me out. So let's just say, our ancestors lived on Earth. You know, we advanced to the technological, we had the technological capabilities to create, again, artificial intelligence, machine learning, whatever it may be. Robots, you know, we gave robots the ability to be able to like do specific tasks. Well, they're eventually going to get smarter and smarter to the point where they don't need, like, they can live without the human race anymore, but they still need us literally to survive. They utilize, again, this is, I'm going based off the Matrix. They are utilizing our nutrients in order to give them energy to run. So I'm not necessarily saying, hey, you know, there's no God, there's no this. I'm trying to avoid religion altogether. What I'm saying is we existed, we got to the technological place that basically the robots overtook us, and now we are just like, you know, we're comatose in some pod, and you know, they're giving us enough nutrients to survive, but then like harnessing our energy to, you know, to run the planet essentially. So basically they're just that's the way I'm looking at it. I'm not necessarily,
it's almost like an iRobot situation as well.
Yeah, it could, again, and I think it's almost kind of scary the way technology advances so rapidly, right? Again, AI has been around forever, but now AI is like, you can't get away from it. I read something at work the other day that said like companies, 94% of companies, when they're discussing their earnings, have mentioned AI. So what that's saying is like companies are really embracing, you know, new technologies, again, artificial intelligence, machine learning, whatever that's going to help them advance. And at what point is it too much? At what point are, you know, we're continuously trying to improve these technologies, and at what point don't they need us? They can operate on their own. They can, you know, refresh themselves. They can continue to learn, and they are now the intelligent life form.
So if we're currently living in a simulation, then, and correct me if I'm wrong, what it sounds like you're getting at is that if we're currently living in a simulation, then there's a lot of irony going on, right? So we're already at the point where we created machines that now outsmart us and are more powerful than us and are using us to their benefit. And while they're using us to their benefit, they're using us to almost relearn and recreate additional artificial intelligence that is also potentially going to, again, outsmart us and be more powerful than us. And we're just keeping that cycle going. Like we're the machine, we're the workers in the factory,
right,
that are creating the sustainability for artificial intelligence.
Now that is something I had not thought of. So we're on like a cycle where, you know, we are creating new technologies for them to utilize, for them to harness. And then, you know, if it's just a cycle where we're getting to the point where we're going extinct, now it's a cycle. Now we come back and we're like reliving history. Is that kind of what I'm hearing? Because that's kind of what it sounds like, where each go around, you know, maybe we create something new that they can utilize.
That's a possibility, right? Anything's possible.
Anything's possible.
And it would be even more ironic. And if this were the case, then I would definitely say this artificial intelligence is petty as hell, because they even were able to get us to create a video game while they're controlling us. They're giving us a video game called Sims of us controlling other people, which is even more fascinating in that regard. So that's exactly what that Sims video game is about.
So that's what I thought when you brought up Sims to me. I've never actually played Sims. I assume that you meant like somehow that like this game is actually controlling, like, yes, it's a video game, but these people are actually real. Almost like I almost consider it like a voodoo thing. That's what I thought you were getting at. And to me, I was like, all right, it's a little much, but you know, okay, let's roll with it. I like to kind of like see where we can take a theory, you know?
Now, what's also interesting about Sims, though, right, is that, yes, it's a video game where we're controlling these fake people and the lives that they live, building these communities, building these relationships. And I think you could look at Sims a couple different ways. I think you could look at it as what we just mentioned, or you could look at it too as a little bit of a blanking on the right word, a little bit of symbolism here, where it's, are there just organically in the world the powers that be that have such a strong influence on what we do as humans that really dictates where we shop, what we eat, what we do for work, for a living, and just every aspect of our lives.
It's an interesting take, Jared. I mean, yeah. Now we're kind of going from we kind of took a left turn, but I mean, I think that's part of the fun in like talking about this. Like maybe not necessarily we're in a computer simulation, run by robots, but maybe like in a sense we are. We've got like I read a tweet the other day. It was like on one hand, it was talking about like a 4-day work week, right? So basically an article came out and said like a 4-day work week would be really beneficial for the people, but there's some caveats, right? And it went into, all like what the detrimental things it could do to society. And you're just kind of like rolling your eyes. Well, someone tweeted or they commented underneath that and they said, on one hand, 4-day work week would lead to healthier people, better productivity, essentially just everyone's going to be just happier. On the other hand, 8 billionaires decided it's not in their best interests. So I think it's funny that you bring up this point that it's like it's genuinely like a few people in the world that can like pull some strings and can kind of dictate, how we're living our lives, what we choose, like, how we choose to eat, sleep, drink, whatever it may be. Like I think you raise an interesting point. Like we might not necessarily be in a computer simulation, but in a sense, like we are being manipulated to perform certain actions every day, to, live our lives a certain way. And I think you might be onto something.
Now, one of the best, what I think is one of the best movies of all time has to be top 15, I would say, in terms of one of the best movies of all time. Maybe top 20 is
let's just say top 50 just to be safe.
I mean, it's a lot of movies we're talking about, so even top 50 would still be impressive.
Yeah.
But it would be The Truman Show. Now, did you ever see The Truman Show? Have you seen that movie?
Oh, of course. I love that movie.
So I think one of Jim Carrey's best films that he's ever been in. And that's what, if I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, that movie is pretty much like a massive social experiment where they take one particular person and they put him in a simulation. They tell him lies about, his past, and then they put him in a simulation just to see how the human interaction, how he responds, how he navigates the world. And what I find fascinating about that is it does sometimes feel like that is what's going on, right? Where we are just constantly in a massive social experiment for the 1% of the 1%, right? Those 4 or 5 richest families in the world that really, control pretty much every commodity that there is to control in the world. And we're just we're their test subjects. And every day is
we're the people in the pods. We're the people in the pods, and they're harnessing our energy to do their bidding, essentially.
Yeah, we're the test subjects who they will spend a day, a month, a year, maybe even a decade on a certain experiment of, okay, well, how did this trend go? And then they rinse and repeat. And then they test it out, and then they test out a new theory, another day, another week, another month, year, decade. And it feels like that sometimes, right? Like it's interesting how all these trends that just constantly kind of come back around, right? Something that was once in, then gets out of style, and then comes back in style as like a retro way of being cool, and then it goes out of style again. And a lot of things just seem very cyclical in terms of what becomes a new fad or what becomes popular in life. And and I'm always wondering, like, who are the people that are deciding that this is the thing. This is the cool thing now. You know, I've always wondered that.
Yeah, I think especially when it's like a dumb fad that gets like super popular. It's a good point. Who is pulling the strings? Who is determining, what the next trend is, what the next fad is? I think we even talked about this before, but like some things I don't quite understand, and I'm sure, again, I wish we had like a psychologist on here to like talk about this, because I think that would be very worthwhile to like get the perspective of an actual like a subject matter expert who can explain to us like, why do people like gravitate towards trends, and why does it catch like wildfire and burn out just as fast? I think that would be, and I think
If
part
there's
of me
any
thinks.
psychologists walking or watching this that specialize in
You
just
think
that, what
you
Josh
think
just
educated
mentioned.
people are you think educated people are listening to the show?
Well, just in case, hey, put your name in the chat, and or DM us on our Instagram, Armchair
Yeah.
Analysis Experts, and
Name,
let us know.
address, credit card number, put that in the chat. We'll get you a mic, we'll get you hooked up for the next episode.
All right. But it is always curious, man. Always curious to know those things. What would you say is one of the dumbest fads that you can remember that became really, really popular, and looking back, you're like, why in the world was this ever so popular?
So I think in my lifetime, a couple fads that stand out that I can remember.
In your lifetime, you say that as if you're in the final stage of life.
Listen, Jared, I could get hit by a car, and I could walk out of my car, my door, and a plane crashes on my house. I don't know. Anything's possible. So I'm gonna pretend like I've seen it all. Furbies was big when I was young. Like this is 5 or 6 years old. Furbies were big. Still don't understand why they were so popular. We have like Beanie Babies. Beanie Babies were another big one. I remember people collected Beanie Babies thinking that was going to be like the next form of currency. People were excited to collect Beanie Babies because they were going to be worth something someday. Still crazy. The other things I can remember.
What's like a new version of? I feel like a new version of Beanie Baby, and I've never actually held one, so I've never
The
actually had one in my hands. The
Labubus.
Labubu things, yeah, I feel like that's a
Don't.
mixture between Furbies and Beanie Babies right
Yeah.
there, which people are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars
Right.
on.
Do not get them.
I just don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't understand spending that much money on something like that. Like,
Again,
is
I
that
think
really going to
people. It's a
appreciate over
fad that
time?
that's exactly it. I think people think that these things they're hot. People want to trade them. I mean, again, I'm going back to like we go from Furbies to Beanie Babies to I think we had like the rubber bands that like people would like trade each other. The rubber bands that made shapes, silly strings, I think is what they were called. We had the fidget spinners. I don't know if that was necessarily a fad. Maybe it was. Fidget spinners. I'm thinking of things.
It definitely hit like wildfire, but I
Mhm.
feel like it is. I haven't seen or heard anybody talk about those in a long time, but I'm also not. I feel like they were so popular in like the school environment, so I think we've
Yeah.
just aged out of that. But
Potentially. But
yeah,
again, I think
those
it's also a little bit of
definitely
a fad. I think a little bit like they were hot, everyone had them, but
they were.
schools, office, wherever. Now you don't see them. So that, and then even going into like, fads with like, I mean, I don't want to say cryptocurrency is a fad, but I also kind of do. I think like they kind of get hot and then they fall. What are they, like NFTs? Like that people can buy people would like buying pictures and or like digital
Yeah, I
graphics.
forgot about that. Yeah.
So I think it's weird. I think people almost look at fads. It's honestly like a form of currency. Like you can trade. It's like trade and barter. It's like, hey, I've got 3 silly bands. Can I get 3 of my dinosaur silly bands for your soccer ball silly band? It's like.
Well, and you know what these fads do, right? These fads give us as human. I think it's in human nature to want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves and want to be included, want to have like a community that you can relate to. And so I think a lot of these fads, and I'm sure, a lot of these companies hire psychologists to study these things, right? And so I feel like a lot of these fads, they know how to lean into that vulnerability of human nature. You create something, you get just a handful of people to, it's all it takes, right? 6 degrees of separation. So it just takes a handful of people.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, you have a large community of people that want to be a part of that bigger community. And so then it's just a massive chain reaction. And then, yeah, eventually it just kind of phases out because also, and this is something I feel like, Josh, is that we're seeing the fads that come on, we're seeing them last shorter and shorter and shorter amounts of time. And I think that's because we're in this world of social media. We're getting, everything is so accessible so fast that our attention spans are just continuing to decrease like crazy. And so you get a fad that, you know, back in the day, yeah, a fad might last a few years even, right? And nowadays you get a fad and it might last a couple months, maybe a year max.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, human society is on to something else, you know?
What do they call fads nowadays? What's a fad now?
What is a current one?
Going viral. Think about it.
Yeah.
Going viral.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
now, like,
right.
I agree with your point about social media. Like, I think it is because we're fed so much information. It's like, it's truly 5 minutes of fame. Like, it comes, it goes, you know, it's hot and then it's gone. So I'm curious to see what the next fad or what's the next thing that's going to go viral is going to be.
Mhm.
Jared, I've always told myself, I've actually had conversations at work. I would love to create something so stupid. It's got little overhead. It costs, you know, the production is like next to nothing, right? And
Like armchair analysis?
this isn't going viral, baby. This is a staple. This is right up there with breakfast.
Okay.
Like, this is like, you know, have your morning coffee, listen to Armchair Analysis. This isn't going anywhere, Jared. All right. Viral. I want to create something that is like, I don't know if it's a product or whatever it may be, something that everyone flocks to. I've always wanted to do that. Just like I want to create a conspiracy theory, same thing. Something that's like, hey, just to be like patient zero, you know, to be at the epicenter of like a fad that just like it's you know, burns bright and then it's gone before you know it. We could do that here, Jared.
Wanting to create it are just so interesting to me.
Hey, listen, I don't know. I think it'd be kind of cool to be like, oh, you know how everybody has like, I don't know, some like weird hat, you know, it's like, hey, I did that. Like, I don't know, solar panel hats, right? That like can somehow, you know, they wear the hat, it somehow charges, you know, their phone or something. I don't know. That's not bad actually, but before we get off topic here, before I start getting, before we start drawing up a business plan. Yeah, I think this whole like viral fad, and I think it comes back to, like you said, it's like, are these just things that like keep us occupied to avoid the real, you know, the real scenario, which is this is all a simulation. Does it all come back full circle, Jared?
Crazy, man. Crazy, crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, well, you know who I really, and I think we've chatted about this before, whether it's through armchair analysis or just us chatting it up. I still love the fact that the original writer of The Matrix also wrote The Terminator, and that those two storylines actually intertwine with one another.
Jared,
that has to be one of the greatest, because I loved The Matrix. I loved the first two Matrix movies. I haven't seen the most recent one, and I used to love watching the Terminator movies growing up. Like, I mean, it was just like a fun action movie, right? Man versus machine type of mentality. So they were just always fun to watch. A lot of fond memories there. And then to learn, which I had no idea, and then to learn that it's supposed to be connected, which is kind of going back again to our conversation.
Wait. Hold on. Time out. The Terminator and Matrix are supposed to be connected?
Yeah, we've talked about this before. We've definitely talked about this before.
I do not. I don't remember this. All right, you got to share with the people the connection between them, because you just.
I hope I don't butcher it. I hope I don't butcher this, but if I remember correctly, The Matrix is the sequel. I think the sequel to the Terminator. And it goes off of what we were chatting about earlier, where it's like, is there a world where what we're actively doing right now, we are fast tracking the evolution of AI, creating machines that are smarter than us.
Right.
Have we been here before, where we've created
Right.
machines that are smarter than us and eventually use that intelligence to overpower us? And then we live in a world where they run the world, and we're trying to regain that control.
Right.
And so if I remember correctly, yeah, I think it's that the Terminator, somebody in the chat, please correct me if I'm wrong. Try to find the interview, but I'm pretty sure, in fact, while I talk about this, Josh, see if you can find the interview, and we'll see if we can get that brought up. I would just type in original writer brings up how Terminator and the Matrix are related. But yeah, if I remember correctly, Terminator came first. So you have Sarah Jane and you have her son. And I think Neo is supposed to be her son in the future. Neo from the Matrix. Because you kind of have the whole storyline of he's kind of lost his family and he's kind of lost in the world. And then it's Neo getting back to that space of like man versus machine, where he chooses I forget which color pill he chooses, but he chooses that color pill and then enters that whole world of being exposed to like back to the man versus machine. I definitely 1000% butchered that explanation, so hopefully we can find the actual interview here, because she explains it so much better than I do. So you got it pulled up?
I have not found. Okay. No, I do. Okay. So it's 47 seconds. So bear with me here.
It's worth it. It's worth every second. If you're a fan of this type of stuff, it's worth every second.
All right. Pulling it up. Having some technical difficulties.
Yeah, this honestly almost made me want to go back and rewatch every Terminator and every Matrix movie.
All right. So we're going to see what she says.
Yeah, turn on the volume.
Neo's mother. So JC prequels to the beginning of the Matrix. Sarah Connor is actually Neo's mother. So JC, John Connor's Jesus Christ, grows up to be Neo, one and the same in the Matrix. The Matrix is in the future. The Terminator is the past. It's time travel, past, present, and future time travel. It's the second coming of the Christ, the evolutions of consciousness, man versus the machine. So the machines, the Terminator machines, hear that a child is going to be born that's going to terminate them in the future when they oppress man. Because see, it's a man versus the machine. It's God's children versus man's children, which was technology.
Isn't that fascinating? So not only is there the connection between those two movies and those two books, those two novels, it's the connection with religion as well. How powerful is that? How layered is that, bro? Like that, I gained so much more respect for both of those series after the first time I heard that interview. It's awesome.
So again, like I just love talking conspiracy. Like I've never heard this in my life. So the shock value alone is like, I feel like I need to go rewatch everything and just like try and find like little Easter eggs, how really are they connected? Okay. That is awesome. It's funny, man, how we come full circle on some of our conversations. I think we first started this, like the simulation, like, is God real? Well, if you're going by like the Matrix, it sounds like it's God versus man, and man's creation with the robots, and then God's creation. It's like fascinating.
Well, and the irony still within that, right? Like she was saying, God's children versus the machine, but it's also, if you're going off of that basis, it's God's children who created the machine,
right? Exactly. Yeah.
And then if we're going off of that again, it's God's children. Not only did they do it once, they've done it a second time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how many times are we going to do the same thing where whether it's ego, whether it's lust or power, whatever it is, like how many times are we going to run into this same form of adversity where we can't hold ourselves back. We feel this need to keep pushing and create something that eventually then just outsmarts us in the end every time.
Yeah.
All because we want to be the first to do it.
I was gonna say, I feel like it's just man trying to play God. And then, you know, I've seen a lot of movies where that happens. I've seen TV shows. I think The Simpsons did it, where like Lisa became God of like this like small population of people, and you know, same kind of thing. It always ends wrong, man. It always ends wrong, but it's fascinating.
It is. Speaking of that, have you ever seen the show Solar Opposites?
Solar Opposites or Polar Opposites?
Yeah, Solar.
No, I've not.
Crazy show, weird show. But
give us a little synopsis.
Well, for the part that relates to this, there's one of the characters has a small army of people that they've like kind of kidnapped and stored away, and then those people begin to kind of go through their own process of revolting, and it's that whole kind of it's kind of that whole conversation again of not necessarily man versus machine, but you know, this person or this thing created this community that then, not necessarily a cult, I wouldn't say that, but this alien creates this community by kind of kidnapping these people, putting them into like this weird vortex of an area, and then slowly those people, you know, they build their own hierarchy, and then they start to revolt, and it's again that kind of same cycle of we create something or we establish something, we outgrow it, or it outgrows us actually, and then we start that process all over again, and it's just a constant cycle.
You know, you said something, and I feel like our conversation is just going, it's all over the place in a good way, and I kind of love it because I think it's just so interesting. Like, you know, we're talking about like, basically you're talking about like these group of people that's like being led, that's like forms their own society almost. And like, I am so fascinated because I'm pretty sure I've read like books that discuss psychology that like, no matter what, if you get a group of people, like people will form like their own hierarchy, right? Where there's like someone in charge, someone who's like doing the majority of the work, someone who's, you know, the gatherer. Like, I think it's just so fascinating that like, if you take a group of people, like they establish their own society, right? With rules and regulations and laws.
Human nature.
Yeah.
Human nature. Now you brought up The Simpsons. I was going to say, don't even get me started there. Now I have a conspiracy theory within a conspiracy theory when it comes to The Simpsons. So obviously everybody tends to know that The Simpsons, somehow they have predicted so many things that have happened to a weird amount of accuracy, like an unnatural amount of accuracy, right? So
an example, like what they predicted.
There's been so much. I mean, literally, there's been way too much. We can let's pull up top 10 things that The Simpsons have predicted that have come true. Now, one of the theories is that the creator of The Simpsons, I don't even know if the creator is considered the head writer, but the creator of The Simpsons,
who I believe is Matt Groening.
Time traveler. Who is it?
Matt Groening, I think is his name.
Oh, let's pull up Matt Groening. I don't know who that is.
I think he's the creator. And so, okay, a couple things that I'm reading, how The Simpsons predicted the future. They said in 1998, they had a joke about Disney owning 20th Century Fox, and later Disney did end up buying Fox.
There you go.
That's pretty shocking.
I think there was one that people were circulating around the time COVID first happened, that there was an episode that was literally about.
So this is saying Osaka flu. A 1993 episode featured a virus from Japan spreading, which fans linked to COVID-19.
Yeah, which is crazy. Now, so the theory is one conspiracy theory is that the creator is a time traveler. Okay. My theory.
So this is your own theory. So this is
my
own
theory.
Okay.
This is my own theory. I could be wrong. But my theory.
I love it.
And I don't know if this is even something that's possible, but I'm saying I would not be surprised if when a major event happens in the world, The Simpsons then in real time, they create a show about it using The Simpsons in real time. They create an episode and then they edit it to make it look like it was an episode that came out in the past. And they just claim that, oh, we had an episode about this in 1993. You guys don't remember? And oh yeah, we predicted this one too. That's my theory.
I think that's a little bit.
It wouldn't be that hard to do. That would not be that hard to do. All you'd have to do is create an episode. All you'd have to do is create an episode, edit the quality of the picture to make it seem like it came out in the past. Because now it is very easy. You can do that on Instagram right now, and then just promote it as something that came out in 1993. You tell people they've already seen it before, and majority of people are going to believe you that they've already seen it before.
I'm telling you right now,
that's how it works.
There are Simpsons fans out there that have watched every single episode. What are they on, like 30 seasons? What, some crazy number. There is someone that's watched every single episode and probably has cataloged them, has rated them. I guarantee if that is the case, they would go, wait a second, that didn't air in, November 30th of 1994. Like,
you think there's people that have a copy of every single episode?
Absolutely, dude. There are diehard fans in every single sort of genre. There, do not judge how crazy and psychotic people can be.
I just don't believe that. I don't believe that every single thing that's happened they've predicted. I don't believe that.
I think it's human nature to just like find natural links. Like, oh, hey, Osaka flu that happened in Japan really has nothing. Think about all the other flus that happened that like, they could have linked to this Osaka flu that aired in 1993, but no, it's the COVID flu that they like. So I don't know.
Think they're just doing a good enough job in their writing to make it vague enough that it
exactly. Yeah, I think that they don't have to be precise, right? They just have to hit. It's a broad target they have to hit, and it's easy. And honestly good.
Wasn't there one where they predicted Trump being president?
I think so. Yeah. So again,
okay, Josh. Okay.
Hey, listen. You're allowed. You're entitled to your opinion.
That's why it's a theory, right? That's why they call it a theory.
Some theories.
So hey, regardless, impressive. even if it is that they're creating it in real time and then editing it and then just telling you that it came out in the past, and your psychology is your psyche is gonna believe it. It's still impressive.
We're not both endorsing that. That's a Jared only endorsement. That's what's happening.
Let us know in the comments what you guys think. Let us also know in the comments what are some other crazy conspiracy theories that you guys have heard, whether you believe it or not, and we can always bring it up in a future episode.
Yep. And like we always say, even if we don't know anything about it, we'll make something up. Fake it till you make it. Am I right, Jared?
Fake it till you make it. That's right.
That is right.
On that note, folks, until next time.
Y'all come back now, you hear?